the Radio 2 and Channel 5 star, sent out this tweet in support of an article by the Telegraph journalist Alison Pearson. Great examples, says Jeremy from Alison Pearson, of some of the absolutely mad things that were done around the country, although not in Downing Street, to comply with so-called COVID rules, including chaining up children's swings in a park. Now, many were confused by this tweet because they consider Jeremy Vine to be among many figures in the media who have been strangely quiet for 2 years about the downside of lockdowns, face masks and other COVID measures. One of the people that was very surprised to see this intervention from Jezza was our very own Liam Halligan. The GB News presenter, author and economics columnist at The Telegraph, of course. He's also the host of the entertaining and lockdown-critical podcast Planet Normal, which he presents with the aforementioned Alison Pearson. Liam tweeted the following: "Where have you been for the last 2 years, Jeremy? Why didn't you critique or even report what you now call the absolutely mad and often deeply harmful restrictions at the time?" Well, Jeremy Vine must have been deeply troubled by this tweet because he snapped back with this. There you go. He says, why do you put out a tweet like this, which you must know is totally untrue, says Jezza. Here are 4 examples of my radio show from the last 2 years, exactly the same territory as Alison. You didn't listen, and now you attack me. It's surprising, really. You'd expect that somebody with so many media gigs would be quite thick-skinned and keen on debate. People don't seem to be convinced by Jezza's defence. Here are a few responses to his tweet from the great British public. Let's start with this one. Bob says, 4 examples in 2 years, great work. Touch of irony there, I suspect. Next up, I've got another tweet, and this one's quite interesting, from Claire. You can hardly put yourself in the same league as Alison and Liam, says Claire. I've seen you attack people all the time for being a sceptic, and now you're trying to put yourself on the right side of history. I've heard you like cycling, but you'll have to do a lot more backpedalling. Nice line, well done, Claire. How about Crispin? Too little, too late, Jeremy. You could have helped stop this long ago. And there's more. Chandler, that's not criticism of the restrictions, Jeremy. You can try and walk back on your scaremongering, but we know and remember the reality. And last but not least, Zippy. At the time of writing Liam Halligan, 2,638 likes. Jeremy Vine, retort, 13 likes. So many in the media furiously backpedaling now. It's too late. You all set out your positions trying to instill fear into everyone, crying out for more, more, more. We see you. Well, many see Jeremy because he's on telly all the time and, of course, on the radio. Now, as the day went on, this gentle intervention from Liam Halligan, hardly an attack, seems to have really bothered Jezza, because this national broadcaster, who surely exists to spark and engage in multiple conversations as part of his job, actually blocked Liam on Twitter. That's right, he blocked him. Here is the incriminating evidence. There you go. What a shocking tweet. There's the bloody dagger. You are blocked. Interesting stuff. Now, I can't believe it. Jeremy Vine, famous communicator, who doesn't want to communicate. He's just excommunicated Liam Halligan. But we need to cut Jezza some slack. Perhaps he has been excoriatingly critical of COVID measures, questioning their efficacy and focusing on their damage, but he's just kept it to himself. Perhaps he has privately been against school closures, masks in the classroom. Perhaps he's been against half a trillion quid's worth of national debt. Perhaps he's been against a mental health crisis. Perhaps he's been against damaged lives and livelihoods, an NHS waiting list of 6 million people, and a spiralling non-COVID death toll. Perhaps privately, he's been talking about an Office for National Statistics Freedom of Information request, emerging this week, which confirms 17,500 people over 2 years have passed away directly from or with COVID in the absence of other comorbidities, comparable with a tough flu season. Perhaps Jezza has been a lockdown sceptic all along. That's probably what it is. He's been a lockdown sceptic all along. So Jezza doesn't just disagree with Liam, he's blocked him. This famous communicator who tops up his meagre six-figure salary from the BBC with a Channel 5 show wants no further contact. Now, I know Liam Halligan, both as a colleague and a friend, and I know he's hurting. There's a lot of bad things that can befall you in this industry. Tough ratings, a car crash interview, getting your facts wrong, your show getting cancelled, harsh critical reviews in the press. But could there be anything worse than getting blocked by Jeremy Vine? Blocked by Vine. Could there be anything worse? Yes, Liam's an extraordinarily experienced and respected journalist and a broadcaster of considerable note, with a string of books and newspaper columns to his name, and a hit show here on GB News called On the Money. That's all well and good. But how do you bounce back from blocked by Vine? You don't. There's nowhere back from hashtag blocked by Vine. I've been watching Liam's show On the Money since this happened. Fantastic as ever. A growing audience that love the show, but he's not right. You can see it in his eyes because he's been blocked by Vine. How do you come back from that? You don't. It's funny, isn't it? It's almost like Jezza and his pals are seeing the COVID narrative fall like a house of cards, perhaps thinking, crumbs, will this be like the Iraq War times 100? A colossal mistake, the price of which we will be paying for years, if not decades to come. Will Beth Rigby from Sky News have the same thought? Laura Kuenssberg at the Beeb. Big Robert Peston. Is he another secret lockdown skeptic? When they were at those press conferences asking why we're not locking down harder, faster, tougher, and when Sky News this week posed the question, are we lifting COVID measures too soon, even though Omicron is clearly milder than a night out with Aled Jones, perhaps they actually were against the COVID measures all along. And anyone who says otherwise may wind up being blocked. Blocked by Rigby. Blocked by Kuenssberg. Blocked by Peston. But there's only one thing worse than being blocked by Rigby, Kuenssberg and Peston, and that's being blocked by Vine. How do you come back from that? You don't. You don't come back from being blocked by Vine. Liam, you're a great guy, but what the hell were you thinking? Jeremy Vine, we feel your pain.